We are joined by Jed Mahrle. Folks, I'm really excited to have this dude on the call right now. Like me, Jed is an alumni of Praxis. He's currently the top performing SDR at PandaDoc and founder of the Practical Prospecting newsletter. If you've never heard of it and you're an SDR trying to crush it, go sign up right now. Recently, he's been sourcing 18 to 36% of all of the outbound meetings for the entire sales team. His secret, among others, is a relentless curiosity to discover, implement, and test out new approaches to sales. Dude's young. Jed, did you start at 17 or 18? How young?
Yeah. I started out as a contractor at 17, about a year and a couple months ago.
That is insane, dude. And like I'm just personally curious because I thought I was the youngest fish in the boat that I hopped in when I was new to sales. I was 21. Like what was that like?
It was kind of scary, not gonna lie. I drove down from Michigan to Florida where the office was. I didn't know anything about sales, and I had 6 months to kind of prove myself. I had an 8-month lease, and so just kind of figured it out. But yeah, man, I just kind of went at it with an open mind, and it was pretty fun.
So you also moved to a brand new city and you experienced the true praxis joy of also jumbling up everything in life along with starting
Right,
to roll.
right. Learning how to move out, all that stuff.
That's really incredible. And like walk me through the overall experience of like those first couple of months there. Like you're starting to get your feet wet, but then very quickly starting to gain traction. I'm curious to hear like what that was like from your perspective and what things that you feel like you were doing differently that really started to work for you.
Yeah, so like I said, I didn't really know too much about sales. I honestly didn't even know too much about what the role was going to entail. So it started out as kind of just like a lead enrichment. So I was enriching leads, building out lists for our outbound SDRs, and then on the side, I would kind of get some like trashy content leads or get a few batches of my own leads to kind of call after, but they were kind of the maybe the ones that not everybody wanted to call. Um, and so in my first 3 months, I just kind of made an effort to basically make the most calls on the team. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I figured, hey, if I can set myself apart by just trying to make the most calls, even if I'm not good at it, then that's one way to, kind of move in the right direction. So it was really just trying to do my actual job of enriching leads. And then anytime I had to make calls, and book opportunities, I was doing that.
That's incredible. So like just to be clear, the official job description is, hey, enrich these leads, go fill out extra contact information, qualify them a little bit, and that's it. No
Right.
one even expected you to make calls.
To some extent, like obviously it was, that's it's part of the job and it's kind of always changing a little bit. But I basically started doing the SDR job as a contractor, and I guess did it well enough to the point where got promoted. So just kind of how it went.
Do the job before you have the title ends up following.
Hell yeah, yeah, man.
So man, take me from there through like that first year where you're just from the outside looking in, it looks like you're constantly innovating. You're trying to figure things out. Like, how do you approach making that cold call? How do you approach even thinking about getting better at sales?
Yeah, so honestly, my first few months as an SDR, I don't think I was that good, really. I didn't have too much strategy or approach. It was kind of just making a lot of dials, sending a lot of emails, just high activity. It wasn't really until like the pandemic started and we all went remote that I started actually thinking about strategy and how to be more efficient and kind of work a little smarter and less just harder pounding the phones. Um, so yeah, it was right around that time I started actually, building out my own cadences, actually taking learning into my own hands and trying to test different email formats, A/B testing things. So really just started with the cadences, and then I started trying new call scripts and just trying to think outside the box. Um, Talking to quite a few people you probably know of from PandaDoc and just trying to learn from them. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't really until I started like experimenting with new stuff and like actually trying to think outside of the box as opposed to what was the normal in the SDR team here that I kind of started to um, see some success.
Yeah, man. So like walk me through, was it a moment in time when it felt like things just started to click for you? Or was it a gradual like hunger, like, oh man, there's got to be a better way. I see people having success around me, but there's just got to be something else. Like what drove you to start thinking differently?
Um, that's a good question. So I guess like taking a step back, I was always playing basketball. Like basketball was where my mind was like 100% of the time up through high school. And then I got this job in sales at PandaDoc, and it kind of just transferred to that, where it was like, okay, I'm going to just dive into this. And this is, I started to find a passion for it. So I guess if there was a specific moment where it all started to kind of click, I don't know. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say it was a specific moment, but there was. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like at PandaDoc, we sell, or part of our solution is like e-signatures, right? And as you can imagine, with like remote work, there's more of a need for e-signatures, and so the market kind of started taking off, and there was new verticals that maybe we didn't think about approaching beforehand, before the pandemic. And so I was one of the early people to kind of go after those verticals and start seeing success in some of them. So that was kind of probably the moment that things started to click a little more, and then go from there.
So what does it mean to go after a new vertical? Like that's inventing a new like talk track, a new cadence,
Yeah, yeah,
identifying entirely new pain points that are industry specific. How do you go about that?
yeah. I mean, think about e-signatures, which is just kind of one portion of what we sell as the PandaDoc solution. There's a big market for that, right? And PandaDoc, historically, at least the way I saw it, and the people I was targeting outbound were like SaaS sales teams, like other PandaDocs, basically, right? Um, when COVID started, I was just paying attention to the wins that were coming through, to the ops that were being created by other people, the inbound leads. I wasn't on the inbound team, but I was paying attention to them. I started noticing a few more like nonprofits, for example, that were coming through. And so I started, I would notice them, and I would just basically try to find 10 identical accounts to those and say, hey, read the notes into why they even came to us, and say, hey, this nonprofit's using us for X, Y, and Z reasons. Would you be open to learning more? So that was kind of my approach, just paying attention to like the new trends that were coming in, and then diving into them. But you're right. I mean, I had to change my whole approach. Turns out that like people in the nonprofit industry or whatnot, they like longer emails, which is weird after doing some A/B testing. Um, Lots of different things like that. So yeah, I mean, my approach changed a little bit as far as that vertical, but you know, yeah.
That's amazing too. Like, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on like how you implement and then monitor and like decide which of the two variants is successful from an A/B test. Like, what is your whole system and thought process look like?
Yeah. So when I'm sending out emails, I mean, I have a specific amount of context that I'm working each day. Like right in the morning, I'll try to work 50 to 100 new contacts. I mean, it really depends. But when I'm doing that, let's say I'm about to send out 100 emails, usually I'll A/B test something like the call to action. I'll put 50 in one email step and
Mhm.
50 in the other, and then just measure it from there. It's usually pretty simple. I don't go super in depth. I know some people are. I wouldn't say I'm the best at like A/B testing and stuff, but I usually check, like, just trust my intuition. But like, if I'm gonna send out 100 emails, I'm not gonna send everybody the same email. Like I'm gonna try to learn something, A/B test something, and try to find a more efficient approach, I guess.
That seems to be like a common theme in just the overall thought process that you bring to sales is like, how do you become more efficient?
Yeah.
I even seen like in practical prospecting, there's this one example of like handle the situation where when a prospect tells you to follow up in 3 months, handle it this way. Don't do it objectively as they ask you to. Call them like a couple of weeks or maybe even a month early. And it's like the way that I see it is like you're almost arming yourself with a whole bunch of different tools, each of which incrementally increase your odds of booking a meeting by 1 to 2%. And then once you have like 15, 16 of those stacked up, in every single person that you're able to make contact with, you have like a 33% chance of closing the deal because you have so many tools in your tool. And I see a lot of similarity because that's like exactly how I was thinking about it and doing it when I was an SDR, which is like really fucking cool. Like,
Yeah, man. Yeah, you put that well. I like exactly how you put that. Um, Yeah, like I try to think about everything like a process, right? And that, there's always like little things you can tweak to make it, like you said, 1 or 2% better. And the whole idea is if you create these rules and like um, different processes, and it's a lot less thinking, it's more executing. And if you're able to like block your time, your days out accordingly, then you know how to just basically focus on one activity at the next, and you have rules in place to kind of uh, spend less time thinking and more time just kind of like executing, like I said.
Yeah, it becomes an automatic process. There's kind of like that.
Exactly.
I forget what this whole term is, but there's unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. And it's like the more of these rules that you have, the more you can program automation into your thought process and enable yourself to just go into that beautiful unconscious competence. Like as soon as I get hit with a I'm not interested, I just pick up the phone and I call the number in the signature. Like
Yep.
that's just what you do. Um, yeah, that's fascinating, man. Like how how quickly do you feel like you were able to pick up a whole bunch of different tools that started moving the needle for you in a really drastic way? Because it doesn't seem like it took that long.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I felt like it took a few months. I felt like I was like the first few months, I was kind of like right around my number. Sometimes I'd miss it by a little bit. I had a really good month my second month, but it was there wasn't a lot of like process to it. I guess it was more just like I was hitting it by pure like work ethic, like just pounding the phones and like just trying to, but it wasn't efficient. Um, But I mean, I think it took a few months. I mean, it's just kind of like paying attention to what you hear, like what you read on LinkedIn, what you hear in a podcast, writing it down, and then making an effort to like try 1 or 2 new things every week. Like that's what I was trying to do. That's just what the newsletter turned into, because like it was my own goal to try 1 or 2 new approaches a week. So I'm like, all right, I'm trying these new things. Let me just share it, and this is what I'm learning. If anybody else can benefit from it, like check it out.
Yeah, and super quickly, you've already scaled to hundreds of people who are subscribed to that. And I think for damn good reason. It's because the content that you're putting out there, you're trying yourself, you're actually seeing results and success with it. And you're even like screen capping real examples. And
Yeah.
I think that's badass. There's definitely room to spread that kind of wisdom into the world. What made you decide to like start learning out loud? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you've heard of Praxis. It's
Yeah, I might have heard of it.
they kind of teach you to do stuff like that. But no, I mean, on a different level too. Like I just really like it because I feel like it helps you retain the information better. And I like to write. And so something like I used to write like random blog posts even before like Praxis and stuff. But like sales is all I do, so it's like 90% of what's on my mind, whether that's healthy or not. But like, so I just write about that. But yeah, I did it just because actually Patrick, who's on the call here too, like when I first started joining, he kind of showed me the ropes with a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and I saw like the success he was having and some of the cool things it was bringing him, like cool connections, meetings and stuff, like booking opportunities from LinkedIn. So I was like, yeah, like let me try that. And so it took me a while to the point where I could actually start booking meetings off LinkedIn or actually um, doing stuff like that. But that's part of the reason why I decided to start like learning out loud, and it just challenges you too. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to commit to writing, once a week or every other week on LinkedIn or through my newsletter, like I better be committed to actually learning new things in my job. So it holds me accountable, to actually have things to share.
Yeah, 110%. And it's a cool thing too, because the types of content that a lot of folks put out there is kind of, I don't even know what to call it, like canned advice, canned perspective. But what I like about following you is that it's actually, I'm on the ground floor. Here's what I'm trying and doing, and here are the results that it's producing. What do you guys think? And
Yeah.
that has always resonated with me. That's the kind of stuff that I don't know. There's an authenticity to that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, thanks, man. And I think one of the coolest things about LinkedIn is like you can learn from other people too. Like when you say like, "Hey, this is what I tried. Like, what do you think?" It's crazy how many people will pop in and like give you their opinion, and then you learn so many cool things. Like, you just get different perspectives, and it's always like helping me personally.
Yeah. That makes me curious, man. Let's take a hypothetical here. And let's say that, Jed is month 1 again, and he's got a 10-minute meeting with future Jed. What advice, perspective, what would you tell yourself if you were starting your career from scratch again, knowing everything that you know now?
I would say talk to people in different departments more. That's one thing. Like I only talk to like the SDRs. I barely talk to anybody. And like even now, like I'm still just trying to like get meetings with people in different departments here at PandaDoc, because I think it gives you a better perspective of the company as a whole, and I think it's just helpful for your career in many ways. But also like it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Like don't just go with the flow. Like don't just use the same cadences that everybody's using. Use the same call scripts. Like try to do different things. It took me a few months to actually do that because I was like scared of the outcome. I was like, I know that I can get away to an extent with just doing the norm. But yeah, I'm like try to experiment with new things and just talk to people in different departments, talk to other salespeople outside of my organization. It took me a while to do that.
Man, that's taking me back too. One of the things that I regret about my first position is that I didn't talk to the other salespeople early enough. Because as
Yeah.
soon as I started doing that and building the rapport, building the relationships, that made everything a lot easier. And I learned a lot of shit that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. And then I like double want to re-amplify what you're saying about other departments too. Because at Toggle, I was talking to marketing, talking to engineering, product. You can gain so much more insight on how to get things done when you like discover a really good idea, or you want to, in your head, like this structural change needs to happen for the business to like really be successful, for my team to benefit, but you don't have the language to like make it happen because you don't have the full picture of everything else. Like having these conversations with other people in the company is super huge. And then like talking about sales outside of the company you're at. Well, that's all we do here. I can't say I agree more.
Definitely, man. Yeah, it's just cool to talk. Like, but going back to the different departments and stuff, sometimes you got to like step outside of sales, and it gives you new perspectives, and obviously just helps you sell your product even better too.
100%, man. That is huh. What's like top of mind for you these days? Like as far as like, career trajectory, what's the next steps for Jed? Like what are you working on? How are you learning? All of it.
Yeah, there's a few things on my mind. I mean, we're kind of building out the outbound team here at PandaDoc. So I'm trying to help some of the other SDRs kind of get up to speed and like really build out the team too. Next, I mean, I'd love to be more in like the enterprise space and like go after like more of the whales and bigger accounts and kind of have more of that strategic approach. That's something that's slowly coming up. Obviously, in the future, I'd love to be in like a closing role too, but it's really just I'm kind of thinking about what's best for PandaDoc and like what my next step is. And so, you know, hopefully one of those things will happen next year. We're working towards it. But yeah, man, I mean, the biggest thing is really just scaling outbound and like building out repeatable processes to where we can like get a shitload more of SDRs and AEs on the outbound team.
That is phenomenal, and I definitely think that you would crush it in a closing role. Have you thought about, so like currently it's all outbound sales development, correct? Like that is the name of your game at this stage of your career, correct?
Yeah, 100%. Just like booking meetings, stuff like that.
So doing enterprise sales development, that's something that you can totally niche down in and like kick ass
Yeah.
at and also grow as well. I'm super insanely excited for your 20s though, man, because at some point you'll be doing the actual closing, and I like woe to the competitors of of PandaDoc when that happens.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, hopefully in the near future. I'm excited for
Yes.
it.
Tell us about practical prospecting. Where can we find it? Where can we sign up for it?
I got it all over my LinkedIn now. I started spreading it everywhere. So if you just search Jed, you'll probably see my name because I don't know how many Jeds there are. And then just click on my name and there it is right there. Like you said earlier, I share every Sunday. Not every Sunday, probably sometimes it's every other Sunday. I'll share 3 actionable prospecting tips